Mina, in line with the last segment that we just had about wondering aloud about quarterback evaluation, there's been one name that we've been wondering about for a decade, and it's Kirk Cousins. And he has value this year. Yeah. And while the contract number is big, there are some unique things about that contract that might make it appealing to acquire him. And he'd be an upgrade over a lot of these teams that would seemingly be a Kirk Cousins away.
Jets in San Francisco.
You mean right now, in season?
In season.
In season,
yeah.
it's a very affordable contract.
But Jets and San Francisco are the two that are most associated.
Mina has another team that it would make a lot of sense for.
There's a few teams, I think, that he would make sense for. But he has a no-trade clause, which is important. Mm-hmm. I personally think if I'm Kirk Cousins and you're looking at a team like Atlanta or Cleveland, which I don't think they'll do it because of the Watson contract, I would go there, the Jets. He should want to, I mean, I would think he would want to be on, Minnesota, they're going to compete, but they're not a playoff. They're not a good team. I think if I were him, I would want to play for a good team. I don't know what matters to him.
The Jets can't be in play, though. If Aaron Rodgers is going to come back week 13 or week 14, if he's trying to come back, you're okay, he's not going to come back.
It would be unprecedented. It'd be a medical marvel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
To talk about the Jets season as if him coming back week 13 is a realistic proposition, I think does a disservice in that, you have to mention it, but it shouldn't guide their decisions at the position.
Yeah, that I agree.
But Kirk Cousins doesn't win them the Super Bowl.
I think he could.
He might.
I think that team with Kirk Cousins could win the Super Bowl. I really do. I'm like a little bit Kirk-pilled lately.
Really?
I think I've arrived at the place where I think he's underrated as a quarterback. And actually, I think in that quarterback series, they were asked that, and both Mahomes and Mariota said Kirk Cousins when they were asked who's an underrated quarterback. Obviously, this is easier to say coming off of a Monday night game, which is maybe one of his best performances in the NFL, certainly his best performance in primetime. But I've actually thought this for the last, I want to say year and a half or so. He is taking risks he didn't used to take as a quarterback in terms of throwing downfield and attempting challenging throws. He's always had the throwing ability in but he's always been a little bit risk-averse.
I was impressed, though, by Monday night against whether San Francisco is healthy or not. Doing that without Justin Jefferson, having that game and throwing whatever it was 55 times because they knew they had a hot quarterback, and doing it in prime time when he's had one decent prime time game. I was stunned by all of that.
I think you saw the difference between there's this kind of joke in the football nerd internet that there's when you tier quarterbacks, there's the Kirk Cousins tier of quarterbacks. You throw in Purdy, Tannehill, all the Shanahan quarterbacks, we call them. And then Kirk Cousins is the best of the Kirk Cousins tier. I think you saw last night, it's oh wait, he might actually be above his own tier of quarterback. When I try to rank quarterbacks for the season, which I know I just spent 15 minutes lashing at the concept of trying to evaluate quarterbacks in a vacuum and making fun of it, and yet I do it as well. I do rankings. I usually end up putting him in that 10 to 15 range. People were laughing at, I think Aikman said he's a top 10 quarterback.
Right. Yeah. It's such a trick. I remember saying Rex Grossman was a top 10 quarterback just because I couldn't find 9 other quarterbacks that everyone can agree were
because
good.
Once you get to number 8, 8 through 15 are pretty interchangeable.
But the 10th best quarterback in that league is better than he was when Rex Grossman was playing. Kirk Cousins, I think everyone listening to this might have doubts about Kirk Cousins, but would also know, okay, he's serviceable. Everything might need to be right for him to win a championship, but he's serviceable. He's somebody that you could pay money and feel decent about your quarterback play.
Well, San Francisco is the ultimate case study for in these big moments throughout the Jimmy Garoppolo era, he was probably the 15th best quarterback who was putting up video game numbers. All the stats are just fake in that offense. But then in these huge moments, notably the Super Bowl, he couldn't make that one throw. Was the difference between? So it's okay, well, how good does our quarterback have to be? Is Kirk Cousins the guy? And they took the leap with Trey Lance. They're we're going to try for the Mahomes thing, which is to say, let's take a shot at a quarterback with tools who maybe can elevate the offense. Obviously, it was they mis-scouted him or whatever. Is Kirk Cousins splitting the difference? Is that the difference? Will that be enough for us or for these other teams that we've been talking about?